Okay, we will call the county board to the order at this time. I would ask everybody to stand for the pledge of allegiance and hold aside.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Roll call will show 1 supervisor absent, 14 present.
Move on to approval of agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda.
So move. Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Members of the public wishing to be heard. We'll go in the order here. When you come up to speak, you will have 5 minutes. Start with Matt Lelma.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Matt Lalamont, I live in the town of Anson. So I'm an avid hunter and trapper and outdoorsman, member of multiple organizations within the state, Wisconsin Wolf Acts, Wisconsin Wildlife Federation. I sit on the DNR Wolf Committee and the Advisory Committee, that is, former Conservation Congress Wolf co-chair, former wolf track counter. I mean, really here representing myself. I want you to get a background on myself. Very into wolf management. I understand one of the topics tonight is reviewing the wolf population goal of 350 or less. I am a strong supporter. Matter of fact, you know, I'm boots on the ground, pushing this wherever I can. Wolves have fully recovered in the state of Wisconsin despite this recent federal fiasco relisting. Our current population is 3 times over what the DNR set in our wolf management plan, the 1999-2007 plan, 10 times over the recovery goal set by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I have firsthand experience with wolf depredation on dogs. I have secondhand experience with wolf depredation on cattle, horses, cows. So current state, left unmanaged, wolves will continue to expand. You know, there's a notion out there that they're going to equalize. Not going to happen. They will continue to expand. And as we, you know, as they expand, we're continue to see more increased conflicts. I mean, so in 2019, for example, here in Chippewa County, we already had some conflicts, harassment with cattle. One was a border collie dog killed. So the 350 count that I'm here to support tonight, it's not just a number thrown at the wall. I mean, some serious research has been done on this. It's based on large forested blocks with low human density. That's where the wolves will thrive. That's where there's or limited opportunity for conflicts. So Wisconsin, we're not a wild state like remote Alaska. I mean, really, out of all the wolf recovery states, we have the highest human density, even where we want the wolves to be. So just want to kind of reiterate that as long as we don't have a cap, we don't have a goal of 350 or less in this state, we're going to continue to see conflicts. As of now, we have 36 counties in the state that support 350 or less. I'd like Chippewa County to adopt that as well. We are going to see more conflicts if we don't support this. So it's my recommendation to the board that support resolution 350 or less. I'd also like to add a caveat too, or something to think about is maybe consider not allowing any problem wolves relocated into Chippewa County as has happened in the past in other counties. Thank you.
John Robert Bailey.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Board. My name's John Bailing. I'm the president of the Weld Riley Law Firm, and I'm appearing tonight on behalf of Mr. Jake Rooney, who's here in person, as well as Rooney Farms. We did want to speak briefly to the board tonight about the gun range issue, which I know you'll be taking up later tonight in closed session. For starters, I think it's important to mention that both Jake Rooney and myself, we're longtime hunters. We enjoy shooting. We enjoy and appreciate our Wisconsin culture. Unfortunately, though, the county owns a facility which is endangering safety for not just the Rooney family, but for anyone who uses the public road. Multiple times and multiple stories can be recounted about times where bullets are simply leaving the gun range, creating a dangerous situation. With this in mind, we did want to talk just about a couple of points. First, let's talk about how we got to this situation. The county board chair had stated earlier in a public meeting, the reason the gun range was moved, and this is important, the reason it moved from its previous location to the current location is because the county equipment kept getting shot at. Unfortunately, this means, and no one's to blame, it's just simply what happened. But what this means is the nuisance, which used to be in one part of the county, is now in a different part of the county. And equally unfortunate, that range is now pointed at that man over there, Mr. Jake Rooney, and his family. Having been a shooter, unfortunately, being in many gun ranges throughout the state, sometimes shooting does attract a bad element. For decades, this has been happening at the county-owned range, and there's no education we can do that's going to prevent it. As long as the county has a range that's open to the public, this will and continue to be, unfortunately, a dangerous situation. To further emphasize the point about danger, the range is currently closed. However, since it's been closed, it's been broken into, and members of the public proceeded to shoot dangerously. I'm sure Todd Pauls is going to get into that in closed session tonight, but as board members, I would encourage you to look at the photos from the break-in and look at the shooting that occurred. Even when it's closed, it's still being broken into. That's why it's a safety issue for everyone, and it needs to be closed. We're hopeful the county takes the approach when you get to this point to close it forever. Most counties around you have come to the conclusion public gun ranges are just bad business. The risk is simply too high. We thank you, the county board members, for your time this evening and for your service and dedication to the county. Thank you.
Jake Rooney.
Hi, I'm Jake Rooney. I'm sure you guys have maybe been hearing about me a little bit lately, but I am the one that lives in the house that has been under fire, if you will. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. I just would like you guys to put yourselves in my shoes, put your house where my house is, where the house before my house was. Put your kids in my front yard, and walk past the bullet holes that are this far off the ground, and, try and sleep at night knowing, that you guys left that open again. It's an uncomfortable feeling. uncomfortable may be the wrong word. It's scary. I don't like walking past those bullet holes. I don't like hearing stories from people that have been on my property having issues, hearing bullets, hearing about scaring my horses up. It's not right. It's a matter of public safety. That's all this is. And I hope that you all take that into serious consideration, however you choose to move forward with the issue at hand. Thank you for your time.
Aaron, Rudy?
Hi, just to clarify, I'm not Karen, I'm her sister. My name is Serena. I spend quite a bit of time on Jake's property helping to take care of the horses. So I'm usually there between 3 and 4 days a week, and I just want to kind of describe my experience to you a little bit. Last summer, I was on the property in the horse area. This was on June 2nd, and heard a bullet go past my head. And then I heard a thud. And then all of a sudden I heard 2 more bullets and thud, thud. The horses were at an adjacent pasture to me, just a few yards away. They were facing me at the time, and they even startled. They all just jumped backwards. So, you know, between the horses and I, we've both been there for 2 years, I think, since the horses have been there. We are so used to the gun range noise that it's just background noise to us, but this was completely different. This was way too close for comfort. It has definitely become a safety issue. As both John and Jake have said, we are a family of sportsmen, of gun owners, of hunters. Completely nothing against anyone who wants to use a shooting range, but this has become a significant safety issue. Like I said, in the past, the shooting was just background noise. Now, since these incidents have taken place, I don't know, is this, you know, someone who's a law-abiding, you know, safe gun owner, which most of them are. But you know what? There's a chance it's someone being reckless or someone just very inexperienced, not realizing what they're doing can kill someone. So I just really, you know, like Jake said, put yourself in our shoes. It's not just a nuisance, it's significant safety. And I myself am afraid to be there now when I hear the shooting. I never was before, but since this has happened, I am now afraid to be there. Thank you.
Kurt, Trishka?
Hi, I'm Kurt Petrushka. I work for Rooney Farms. I've been working for 12 years. Then the last 5 years, they bought this property that Jake lives on now. Over the course of the 5 years, we've re-sided a barn, re-roofed the barn, re-sided the shed, demolished, you know, a few buildings, and every single thing we ever repaired, there's always bullet holes in it, you know. The barn, you know, built in 1926, had bullet holes on the south side. The pole shed with the most recent bullet holes in it was tinned 3 years ago now, and we noticed 5 bullet holes. There's 5 bullet holes was 2020. Kind of, you know, noticed them in our combines, noticed them in stuff we had stored in the shed, and marked all the holes out, you know, on the shed. And then this last summer, I was building the fence with another guy, and we were hearing gunshots, whatever. It's not anything to us. And then all of a sudden we start hearing some whistling by us, and we're kind of, you know, our hair's standing up, and, you know, we're like, well, I'm pretty sure I know what that was. And so we kind of started looking around, and all of a sudden we're starting to find, more bullet holes in the shed. And it's, been consistent. It's been noted that it's been happening, nothing's been the first time. But regardless, it hasn't stopped, and it just needs to stop so we can go about our way and not have to ever think that, somebody might be possibly shooting at us right now, just standing out here. So, thank you.
And Justin Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, my name is Justin Andrews, and along with attorneys Bailing and White, I represent the Rooney family. As Attorney Bailing mentioned, Chippewa County is one of the few counties left in the state that still owns and operates a public gun range. Most of its surrounding neighbors, including Dunn, Clark, Eau Claire, and Barron counties, have made the correct decision to escape the liabilities and the costs associated with owning and operating a firing range, a venture best left to the private sector. With this in mind, I'd like to point out that closing the gun range doesn't mean the end of recreational shooting in the area. It opens the door for private, local associations and businesses to take up the mantle, and to do so in a way that minimizes the risk of harm to county residents, their property, and their families. Currently, there are 5 other gun ranges owned by small businesses and associations that are available to the public. All 5 of these ranges are within 25 miles of where the county's range currently sits. They're accessible, they're affordable, and they're fully staffed, and most importantly, they're safe. The Bloomer Rod and Gun Club sits only 9 miles away from the county range and has an annual family membership for the same price as a single county range membership. The Westgate Sportsman's Club has been very vocal about the fact that they always welcome new members. The club contains both indoor and outdoor ranges and hosts several shooting leagues throughout the year. The Eau Claire Rod and Gun Club has a fully supervised range with covered shooting positions and a 16-lane archery range. Mark-On Shooting and the Eau Claire National Rifle Club, both within 30 minutes of the county range, and both offer excellent services and amenities to residents. All this information and more was provided to the county administrator, and we have brought a copy for each board member. The Chippewa Valley is home to several safer alternatives for gun ranges in the private sector. We ask that the board recognize this and makes the correct decision to close the range. And with Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to provide a copy of the memo to board members.
Just leave them at the desk. Distribute.
Thank you very much.
Any other members of the public wishing to be heard at the inside? We will move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion. Can we separate them?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I would like to ask a question about the February 15th meeting where we were talking about the ARPA.
Charlene, you make a motion then.
Make a motion that I can separate the,
out the issue.
okay, so I make the motion that we separate them.
Is there one particular?
The middle one, the 15th of February, I have a question about,
The notes for the minutes?
yes.
Okay, so there's a motion to separate out and act on minutes for February 15th individually. Is there a second? Any Any further discussion?
I was reading the minutes from it, and it stated in there that the administrator said, I had questioned them about the municipalities, how they were getting help through ARPA. And it was written in the minutes that he had mentioned it was through the state that they were getting aid. Is that correct? Is it not through federal like ours?
I'm going to have the administrator answer that for you.
Yeah, so the townships are a little different than we're getting the aid directly to the county. The towns, everything's going through the state to the towns.
Why would that be a difference? Because of the size of the,
No, it's just the way they set up. NACO, National Association of Counties, and WCA really pushed hard that the funds would come directly to the counties because the state, anytime it goes through the state, they take a administration fee, and they wanted all the money to go directly to the counties. And they felt the counties, I think, were big enough to deal with it, where the towns and some of the small municipalities would have a really hard time just because of staffing to do that. But yeah, that's why they pushed it.
by skipping over the state regulations and our guidelines that we would probably be protected by if there was a problem, are we kind of putting ourselves out? I mean, we've had all these printouts of how we're supposed to regulate them and what money and all that. I've never seen a contract that we signed.
Yeah, I don't know if we can talk about this under this.
But we have.
We're just talking about minutes.
First, right, before this is all gonna be finalized?
What's that?
April 1st is the deadline for finalizing all this?
July is when the resolutions will come to the county board, except for the things you've already passed in resolutions.
But none of the money has been spent yet.
We have an signed agreement with one of the telcos right now, but none of the money's been allocated.
Is there a contract that we can see?
I don't know if we can't really talk about this right. This is the minutes under the meeting. If you want to have a different agenda item, definitely
Yeah.
talk about
It
it.
just seems like when you're working with the federal government, there should be something written down with signature.
Yeah, I just can't talk about it right. I mean, we could probably talk about, I don't know if we could talk about it under the resolutions with the telcos. We can talk about it under resolutions with the telcos if you got questions.
So, Charlie, do you want to disapprove the minutes, or do you want to approve the minutes?
Well, I mean, he's accurately, he's
Yeah,
accurately
that's correct.
quoted. So I was just questioning, because I was wondering why they were not getting federal grants, like, federal money like we were getting it, that they were getting something through the state.
Right, so, well, we're looking at, now here, this is an approval of the minutes, so if there's something in the minutes themselves.
No, he corrected it.
Corrected.
Yeah.
So motion's been made and seconded for the minutes of February 15th. Bill made a motion. Motion on the floor was from Charlene. And do you want to approve or disapprove?
I'll approve of it now. Yeah.
I think we have to vote.
We have,
To vote on.
we have to vote on. So the actual moment, so there, we're gonna take and decide to vote on it. So the first order of business, we'll need to vote whether or not we're going to set this one aside to vote on, instead of voting on it as a block. So motion is made and seconded to that effect. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Fails. Okay, now we're back to consent agenda as a whole. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as a whole?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Okay, reports. Department reports. 2021 annual jail inspection.
Good evening. Before Kurt gets into the annual jail report, there's a few things that I want to let you know that you don't see in that report. What I'm very proud of is the administrative staff. Kurt is the captain of the jail. I don't see Lieutenant Model here tonight, and we've got 4 sergeants that supervise, operate the jail. Again, the report is pretty well self-explanatory, tells you what needs the requirements of 350. I think this is our 3rd year without, 4th year without a single violation, without a ding, without something that the jail inspector has brought to our attention that needs to be addressed. What we are so proud of back in the jail is that since COVID hit, there's been many changes back in the jail. Most importantly, we have not had a single positive COVID test in the jail since COVID took place. A lot of precautions that Kurt, Dan, the sergeants have put in place. I think we are probably one of the only jails in the state of Wisconsin that has not had a COVID case. Very, very proud of that. And again, with Kurt's direction, Dan, the lieutenant, and the sergeants, and staff that we have, we're very fortunate that we have not had a single case in jail. With COVID coming to light here 2 years ago, one of the things that have happened in the jail is our programs have pretty much ceased. Our programs, we have many, many programs throughout the jail. The programs are for the benefit of the inmates. A lot of time and effort put aside by the people that come in and volunteer those programs. The programs keep our inmates busy so they don't keep us busy, besides educating, helping with their needs and so on and so forth. So again, that report won't reflect as to what's going on in the jail. What I'm really proud of is, again, Kurt and Dan's supervision. Our jail staff, a little less than 30 jailers. Out of that 30 jailers, probably 3/4 of them don't have more than 2 years experience. When you don't have the experience, mistakes can be made, and as we all know, the jail is the county's biggest liability in regards to a civil suit of any kind. So again, very proud of the supervision that Kurt provides, Dan provides, our sergeant provides, and the hard work that our jailers put forth on a daily basis. With that, Kurt, all yours.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Kurt Dutton. I'm the jail administrator. Every year, as the sheriff said, we get inspected by the state jail inspector, the Office of Facility Detention. We have 29 total topic areas that we get critiqued by, and they want documentation for. There's 17 different topics with a total of 29 different areas they look at. And this is the culmination of what they critique every year. It takes about 2 weeks for the lieutenant to put together. It is pretty much a snapshot of the entire year. They ask for random dates, they ask for random documents, they go through and they pull things out as out of the file cabinet, and this is what we come up with. Just for an idea of what we're talking about, this is one suicide packet that we have that we're required to fill out, all the documentation for someone that's on suicide watch. We had 180 of these in the year. Just within this packet right here, there's probably about 14 different areas that they look at within this packet. And when you're talking 180 of these packet, a lot of room for mistakes to be made. Again, this is the 4th year in a row that we've been inspection free. The jail's kind of on an island. We're not out in public. A lot of us, you'd probably see people you don't even know that they work in the jail. If you do know someone that works in a jail, go up to them, tell them congrats, tell them to keep up the good work. As the sheriff said, 3/4 of our staff or better have less than 2 years. Over half of our staff has less than 1 year. And to look at that and to look at what is going on back there and what they're doing is pretty impressive. So if you know any jailers, give them a pat on the back and tell them to keep it up. Any questions for me at all?
Any questions from the board?
Yes, Ham.
Yes, Mr.
Do you anticipate continued turnover that would come for that many young?
This is not a Chippewa County issue. This is a statewide issue. There's not a lot of glamour in what we do. We work weekends, nights, and holidays, and people can work day shift at a local factory Monday through Friday, have every weekend off, and make $2 or $3 more than what we do. It's, for some people, it's not, this isn't their dream job. No one grows up saying they want to be a jailer. You know, when's the last time you heard that? So it's a tough field to get into. It's one of those things that people end up in it, and you either like it or you don't.
When do you anticipate going back to your programming for the inmates?
We have gone back to it virtually. With the help of some grants through other agencies here, we secured 3 iPads, and we're still doing all the programs that we did before, but they're done virtually. It's not ideal. Things kind of turned around a little bit here recently with the decline, but we're still taking baby steps, because as the sheriff said, we haven't had any outbreaks in the jail, and we don't risk that for something like having somebody come in, because it's still kind of a fragile area right now. So we're not looking at making major changes right now, easing into it.
One more thing for you board members that have not had the opportunity to tour the jail. And again, with after April, with some new board members, again, feel free to simply stop in, call Kurt, give me a call, and we'll give you a tour. I think we have the cleanest jail in the state of Wisconsin. You could eat off our floors. So again, the opportunity to come in and take a tour at any time, again, just get a hold of myself or Kurt. Okay.
Thank you.
So it's hard to believe that it's been 2 years already, because the last 2 years have been somewhat strange, unusual. And some of you, I never saw your faces, I think, until recently. So on behalf of all of us here, we thank you for your service the last 2 years. At your table, you should have envelope with a certificate with your service. I know this is our last meeting as all of us together in 15. Next month will be 21, and some of you have decided not to return with a big smile on your face. That's okay. For those of you, the rest of you, good luck, and we'll see what we see in April. Thank you.
Move on to the business items. 6.2. So resolution 6.2, do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Made second, discussion.
Read it. No, I'll read it now. Now I'll read. Yeah, now I'll read it. Resolution number 6-22, resolution to support the grant application of BTC Communications doing business as Bloomer Telephone Company to help qualify for broadband expansion funding from the state of Wisconsin. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby support the PSC $100 million initiative to expand high-speed broadband internet access to the unserved and underserved in Wisconsin, and more particularly in Chippewa County. And be it further resolved that Chippewa County shall provide $328,818 in funds as part of the Bloomer Telephone Broadband Expansion Grant Program grant application, and that if that application is approved, that $328,818 be provided to the Bloomer Telephone Expansion Project as agreed by the county and Bloomer Telephone, forwarded to the county board by the county board.
Ready? All right, before I ask Kent or Travis from Bloomer to come up and talk on this, just kind of want to go through a little bit of history. Obviously, at the last session we had, you approved to add $500,000 towards broadband because of the fast deadline of March 17th when they have to have this completed. We really worked hard on this. As you'll remember, previously there was 3 companies that went for the broadband. 24/7 decided not to this time. All their activities are in a different county this year, so they did not want to participate in this round of funding. So I did some very simple math with this to come up to the numbers that Chippewa County's contributing. I just took the $500,000, divided that by the number of locations, and that's how much I gave to both telcos, if the county board agrees to that. One thing I want to point out in this, and I've asked Jackie to make sure in the minutes that this is noted. If you go to the fiscal impact, you'll notice if you add up those last four numbers, it does not add up to the total project cost. Telcos in the state, they don't look at our projects by county lines. So the project cost is more. And if you go to the breakdown of that, you'll see in the town of Seymour, which is in Eau Claire County, actually has a project that's included in this total funding. But I didn't want to include the town of Seymour's contribution or the Eau Claire County's contribution, obviously, because that's not part of Chippewa's. So it got a little complicated, but I wanted to show everything that was happening, so that's why those numbers don't line up completely. So I'll let them, who's ever coming up, Travis or Kent, who's going to talk on the actual project, and we'll answer any questions you have.
Good evening, and thanks for your time on consideration of this resolution. We're looking at 4 different projects, 3 for Chippewa County. And on the map there, you can see the town of Lafayette in the blue. And then the second project that we're talking about here in maroon would be the town of Halley and town of Lafayette. And so what you see there in those areas is the areas that don't have coverage of broadband. So when you think of Lafayette, you think of Lake Wissota, right? But the southern area there has no broadband. And so Lake Wissota is well served. This area over by the orchards and all of those communities, little subdevelopments, that area is left behind. And there's 423 homes and lots in that area. And then town of Halley, you can see how close you can be to 53, and there's no broadband in those areas either. And it's just because it's rural and spread out, and it's not cost effective for a telco to go in there, self-fund to feed that. So that's why this broadband funding through the townships, through the counties, through the state, and the different partners is crucial to serve this area. When you look at these areas, you're talking roughly between $40,000 and $55,000 a mile to construct these facilities, and it ends up being around $10,000 a home served. So that's why the grant money is necessary. But once you put this kind of funding into this area, that's going to allow for development, it's going to allow for business, you've laid the infrastructure, the foundation for growth. So that's that project. And then the Tilden Eagle Point project is just expansion of the previous project that you guys approved last year. So areas in the purple just off of the blue that was not eligible for last year's funding, it's just a different rule package. The feds had one rule package, the state has a different rule package. So while we can go right by these homes and say, sorry, we can't connect you, this package is a little better and allows us to connect these homes. So it's just the different rule packages we get that we have to work with. So that's why this project is a smaller scope, a smaller dollar amount. It's just finishing what we're trying to do with these other projects. And then from there, we can look to expand as more funding comes available. Any questions in particular with these 2 projects or 3 projects?
Questions from the board?
And just one thing. One thing I forgot to mention, is that Eagle Point previously did contribute $300,000 on the last go-around. They haven't on this, but I think that's probably most of their ARPA funds, considering the size of their township. Correct.
They had 350.
I think we had.
No, they had
315 total?
They contributed
They contributed
300 of their 315. Tilden had 155 roughly, around the 150 number. They contributed, I think it was 100 or 100 and quarter last time. They held back 30 and said, we want more next year off of what you're doing this year. And so that's what kind of started this next go round. So.
This is a little different in that the previous projects were ARPA funds through their program. These coming from the state are state funds. We're still obviously using ARPA, but they're using the state funds.
Yep.
It's a little bit different than what we did last time. Thank you.
Any further discussion on resolution 622? Motion's been made to approve and seconded, so at this time, we would ask you to vote electronically.
Yes or no?
Okay, resolution passes. Resolution 722. Next one here, 722. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
I'll read it.
Have to read it.
Resolution number 7-22, resolution to support the grant application of Entera LLC to help qualify for broadband expansion funding from the state of Wisconsin. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby support the PSC $100 million initiative to expand high-speed broadband internet access to the unserved and underserved in Wisconsin, and more particularly in Chippewa County. And be it further resolved that Chippewa County shall provide $171,182 in funds as part of the Entera LLC Broadband Expansion Grant Program grant application, and that if that application is approved, that $171,182 be provided to Entera LLC expansion project as agreed by the county and Entera LLC, forwarded to the county board by the county board.
All right, this one's pretty straightforward. Ryan, if you want to come up and talk on this from there. The only thing I would add is the town of Getz last time did participate $10,000 on the previous one.
So yeah, it's pretty easy. What they said is just in a different area. So we've been working with the townships of Anson, Arthur, Cleveland, Eagle Point, Estella, Getz, and Ruby, kind of expanding off our current build out, which is in the middle of everything right there. And as you saw in the last diagrams we met last time, there's a bunch of white open space to the southeastern part of the county. And we're kind of just biting off what we can chew to expand throughout that and try to build that whole area out. So our next grant area here is what we're asking for. And Randy did a good job working with us, and 316 customers, and we have 1,298 on the books already in between there. So we're just trying to get all these people really good internet. So if you have any questions for me.
Questions from the board?
Do you have any plans of doing anything east of 27?
Yeah, so we're looking into it. There's about 1,200 additional customers and about $9 million of work over there yet to do. So that's one of those things where you can't bite off more than it's yours. You're going to put yourself out there. So those are going to be future projects for us to look into and continue to look at different grants and stuff like that. So we do, as an overall plan, we do plan to expand southeast to that on the other side of 27, correct? Yeah, Buck.
Yeah, you're already going up into Ruby, right, with this grant, right?
We're with a different grant, we're going north part of Ruby. This grant will be the southern part of Ruby.
Okay, so you're coming into Ruby from both directions?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have one question, though. I know that there's a couple different phases when you drop broadband lines, right? So you drop it into the area, and then there's that last, they call it the last mile or whatever, that actually gets it to the homes. Is that included in this or not?
Yes, yes. Yep. That's mostly what this is about, is getting it to the residentials.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Call the vote then. Resolution 7.
Okay, to release. 12, yes.
Resolution 822, do I hear a motion to approve? This is the wolf population then.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded.
Resolution number 8-22, resolution to support a goal of limiting the Wisconsin wolf population to 350 animals in the state of Wisconsin, Department of Natural Resources Wolf Management Plan. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby support a wolf population goal of 350 or less animals as part of the next Wisconsin Wolf Management Plan. And be it further resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors encourages the WDNR to include elected officials from counties with high wolf conflicts in the DNR Wolf Advisory Committee. Be it further resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors requests that WDNR and other partners implement meaningful population controls in the Wisconsin Wolf Management Plan. And be it further resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors requests that the WDNR not relocate problem wolves from other counties in the state into Chippewa County. And be it further resolved that the clerk shall forward a copy of this resolution to the offices of the Wisconsin Governor, Secretary of the WDNR, Preston Cole, Secretary of DATCAPS, Randy Romansky, at the state legislators who represent Chippewa County, forwarded to the county board by the Land Conservation and Forest Management Committee.
There's much more qualified people in this room than I am speaking to speak on this. I think the gentleman that did it did a good job, but my understanding of this, and I've only heard this at the committee meeting, is essentially the DNR's done the research to come up with population sustainability, and that number is 350, and this is encouraging the state to stay at that number. I think I have that right, but.
Any questions from the board?
I'm just wondering if anybody has any additional knowledge regarding possible language related to relocating problem wolves or not allowing the relocation of problem wolves to Chippewa County. I don't have any, so I don't even know what kind of amendment to make or if it's something you can do.
You can amend it, yeah.
It's already in a resolution not to relocate.
Okay.
Oh.
Jackie read that too. I listened to you, Jackie.
Great, perfect.
Any other questions?
Were they on the protective species at one time? And, yeah, were they put on there so that they couldn't have any hunting of them?
Correct.
So they've been taken off of that list, so now there's more than enough that they have to put a limit on the population.
Correct. As the gentleman stated, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service substantially.
Just, a little bit I know is yes, they were delisted
then they were back on the endangered list. And that was hung up in a court for about 7 years, or 8 years, or whatever. And during them time, the wolf population went beyond, way beyond what was intended, what was planned on having. And that's why we had the last wolf hunt a year ago, February. Now they put it back in endangered species, and we're still way, way, way above the recommended number.
Just on Buck's comment, the reason it went back was relisted is because of court action, not because of agency action. So just to clarify that, both times, I believe.
Anybody else? Questions? None, we will call the vote.
Can I release? 14 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. We got resolution 09-22. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Resolution number 9-22. Resolution to eliminate the Administrative Assistant 3 position in the University of Wisconsin Extension Office. Now therefore be it resolved that effective upon passage of this resolution, the Administrative Assistant 3 position in the Extension Office is eliminated, and be it further resolved that the County Administrator shall work with the Area Extension Director to amend the contract with the Board of Regents to reflect the changes necessary to effectuate the goals of this resolution, and be it further resolved that the Area Extension Director provide an update to the Agriculture and Extension Committee after 6 months as to how the transition from the County Administrative Assistant 3 position to the new State Administrative position is progressing, forwarded to the County Board by the Executive Committee.
All right. I'll start out, and then Catherine's here, Area Extension Director, to add to it. But essentially what happened is Catherine, we had some conversations, and there were some duties that were tied to this position that really didn't feel were part of the extension work. So we removed those duties. There's 3 essential ones were the committee meeting, agendas and minutes, data entry for extension budget, and then administration of the wildlife abatement program. After talking with Catherine, I felt like this position, taking that away, you're taking duties away, you take the full-time status away. So a little different between the state and the county. The county only allows either full-time or part-time. If you go to part-time, you only can work 1,500 hours and you get no benefits. The state actually allows a 0.8 position, 0.80 position with full benefits. So you go from 1,500 hours up to 1,664 with full benefits. Also, we're starting to see this trend across the state. I think St. Croix County currently has it. I know there's some other ones that are talking about it in the administration world. And I think it makes sense because it's just gotten, when Extension went to the Madison, I would say it's more strict on how we can kind of work together and talk about disciplines and talk about, working with joint employees. So I think you're going to continue to see this trend of them going to state employees because it just makes a lot of sense, I think, from their end too. So I'll let Catherine give her insight, and then if there's any questions, we'll try and answer.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Catherine, and I know I've had a chance to meet some of you, but perhaps not all of you, so thank you for allowing me to share this evening. I echo everything Randy shared, and the short takeaway is that we hope, if this is passed, that this will be a pretty seamless transition, because we have worked out with the county that we would have, pending approval, a state employee have all the access to software in the county to do what's needed to support the department. And what will happen is the employee will be considered a state employee, so they will actually have access to more software and more resources that can better support all of our extension employees and in our department here. So I'll give an example. We have a research software called Qualtrics, and the contract that our campus has only allows employees of the university to have that access to that software. So right now, when our educators are using that software to help with their research projects and see what is the impact here in the local community, they can't ask for support staff help if they're county-based, because by nature of that contract with the university, we can't allow other people to be on there. And that's just one small example of that. And so what we would propose is, 80%, and I know if my colleagues from the department were here standing right by me, they'd say 80% times 3 times 4. And I would be right alongside of them. I would love to have additional staff. And I also feel that this is a very fair solution that really blends well with the county and with our department to serve our needs. And, one of the examples that Randy had shared about was, previously in our department, we'd have county support staff processing USDA wildlife abatement. And that is a project completely separate outside of extension. And so that was, I think in the past, pretty hard to support, just because I don't have any knowledge of that program, and typically it's housed in other departments and counties across the state. So I think with the realignment, it'll work well. Randy and I have already talked about having an assessment that's being done, and in fact, I brought it up to some of my peers in extension, and they are also interested in making some assessments. So I think we can help pilot some of that, like, hey, how's it going type of stuff. And then we'll certainly report back from Randy and myself to the Extension Committee, and then Ag and Extension Committee, and then back to Exec and full county board, so that you can hear how it's going. I'm sure it won't be 100% smooth, so we'll bring our little iron along and iron out the wrinkles as they come along. But all in all, I feel really good about this approach. We'll have, depending on who the person is who's hired, and we haven't even posted for the job because we need to make sure we have county support for this. But depending on the individual, they can potentially work 5 days a week at six and change hours. Maybe they'll work 4 8-hour days. We've got a couple other counties nearby where some employees work 0.80 FTE. And if you have kids, it's really nice. They like to work 5 days during the school year, but then in the summertime, they'll often work 4 days, and then they can have that extra Friday with the kiddos during the summer. So we'll be as flexible as we can be, and I also want to be transparent that this change will not mean that we have somebody at the Extension Department 8 to 4:30. But we will work our very best, and we will coordinate with other departments nearby if we know somebody is going to come in and needs to drop something off. We've had a really good informal system working already. So I think that's about it, but I certainly would welcome any questions that the chair would allow.
Questions?
I move that we amend it from 0.8 to 1 full-time position, and to make all the language in resolution consistent with that principle.
What line are you, certain line on the resolution looking to amend?
I'm looking to amend the concept because there's so many lines it gets messy.
What again is the motion?
I move to amend from 0.8 to 1 full-time position, and to make all the rest of the resolution consistent with that principle.
I'll second that.
Second. Discussion.
Okay.
are we, with that amendment, you gotta clear it up in my head. With that amendment, we're actually saying that the state's gonna have to hire a full-time employee rather than an 8/10 employee. We're forcing the state to do something, well, I don't know if the state's agreed to do it or not, but we are telling them what they have to do. Is that what I'm hearing by that amendment?
Sounds like it, yeah.
I think I would personally interpret it a little differently than the county telling the state what to do. I think it would be signaling what level of support is desired by the county for the department. So whether you choose 0.80 FTE or 1.0 FTE, all of that would be paid for from Chippewa County levy dollars. And then what we would do is we would amend our contract that we have annually that gets, the funds get passed in the annual county board process. We would amend that same contract with the state employees to add, in this case, a 0.80 FTE. And if the county decided that it was going to be a higher percentage, we would accommodate that. But we certainly wouldn't take it as you're telling us what to do. It would be more of a, we would want to work with you all on complying of what's the spirit and intent of support.
Sure, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, it was talked about at the committee level. The reason I don't support this is because we're taking duties away from this position. We're giving them to other departments. I'm gonna have every department in the county asking to do the same thing and keep their staffing at the same level. So I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Isn't the resolution just to eliminate the position? We're not going any further than that, are we?
No, we're eliminated and adding a 0.8 for state operations.
So we are recommending that 0.8?
Correct, yep. Motion, I mean, I think the amendment's correct.
7.5 years ago, there was 2 full-time secretaries in that department, and now we're going to 0.8. I don't believe you can tell me that that one secretary had half the workload. First of all, to your point on you're taking duties away, and the duties you're taking away are not major time constraints associated with it. We have a lot of money in this county for economic development and social services. Some of that economic development money and social service money needs to be put into this position. We support our largest industry with extension. We have programs in the jail that extension works with. And the other thing is, we all have constituents in this county that the only face of the county they see is the highway department, or maybe the sheriff's department, which generally isn't positive, no matter what the situation is. And then outside that, there's 4-H and extension agents, which are part of the state, but we fund part of that, and this position supports that. And to simply put somebody at the front desk for 0.8 of a position and expect that if there's something that needs to be done, they go down to the neighboring departments. Now you're putting a load on these other departments, and one of those departments is land conservation. I don't believe land conservation, I've never walked in there and seen Joan doing her fingernails. You're putting a load on these other departments. And a full-time position doesn't mean somebody's at the desk all the time. There's breaks, sick leave, vacation time, and now it's gonna be one day a week besides that, somebody's not gonna be at that desk. And Catherine herself, 2 meetings ago, told us that she volunteered to take the desk one day because she had some things to do. So she manned the front desk. At the end of the day, she didn't get any of her work done. That tells me that there's some workload there that needs to be done, and 0.8 isn't gonna cut it.
I guess the only other thing I would add is we've just gone through COVID. We've gone through virtual, we've gone through UW extension wasn't down there for months and months on end. I didn't hear one complaint about customer service. But I think we can still provide the same level of customer service that we've had in the past and still be able to do this at the 0.8. I don't know what that number is. I have no idea. It's gonna be.
Okay, then we will vote on the amendment.
It's the motion to amend from a .8 to a full-time position and to amend the wording in the resolution for that. Seven yes, 7 no.
Motion fails. Okay. Back to the original resolution. Made and seconded. To approve, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we vote.
So if the motion fails, this position was put in the last budget as a full-time position. So if the motion fails, we go back to that status, correct?
There'd be no change.
You'd fill that position as directed by the November budget, correct?
Good question. That's a really good question. Yeah. Yeah, so if the motion on is to go to a .8, the resolution to go to .8, so if it tied, it would fail, so yeah, you'd stay status quo.
Further discussion?
Yeah. Go.
I know this is not my parliamentary procedure. So let me see if I'm understanding. If we didn't have the amendment, and if this passed, we would have amended, it would have kind of a de facto amendment of the annual budget. That would be now effective to make that change. Because we wouldn't make this effective January 2023, it would be effective like as soon as we could hire somebody. So I think, I guess my understanding, and I certainly defer to the chair and corp counsel in an opinion, but it seems that now going forward, if this passes, it still would change what was decided in November for this fiscal year, if that makes any sense.
Oh, you confuse me. So the budget that was passed in November, I guess I can ask the PCR had of one full-time position for the county in this, correct, Lorian?
The way the PCR, the budget is built, it's built on the incumbent of the position. So this happens all the time where the incumbent might be in a position in May or June when that is built. But by the time the actual thing by the time it happens, someone could have replaced them. More experience and be paid more, or less experience and be paid less. So it's always a moving number. It's never exact, but it's the budget.
So the budget would have had this full-time position, correct, Lori?
Right, so it'd have Heather's.
So yeah, it would have the budgeted position in there that was passed in November. I think you're right.
Further discussion? Hearing none, then we will be calling the vote on the original resolution, which is to approve the appointment.
And yes, 4 no.
Motion carries. Okay, resolution 1022. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 1022.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Resolution number 10-22, resolution to designate the week of April 11th through April 15th, 2022 as Work Zone Awareness Week in Chippewa County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors does hereby designate the week of April 11th through April 15th, 2022 as Work Zone Safety Awareness Week in Chippewa County, forwarded to the County Board by the Highway Committee.
I'll have Brian Kelly, our Highway Commissioner, speak on this.
Yeah, this is just something that we pass every year. At least since I've been here. We've tried to bring it forward every year at this time. Federal Highway chooses that week for us. It'll be the 11th through the 15th. All 72 counties are asked to do this. We have a lot of danger in our work zones. We want to get out ahead of that with some public awareness, some press releases and different things. We'll be working with the sheriff through their Facebook page to get some information out about work zones. So, it's just not just for county work zones, it's for any contractors, anybody that's working in the county. They know how dangerous it is out there. So distracted driving all over the place, even though it's illegal in work zones now. You have to be hands-free. You still see it constantly through our work zones. So just want to get some awareness out there that our guys have families and they just want to get home every night. And this is just one thing we do for that.
Further discussion?
No, sorry. I know you're looking at me, sorry.
Moving on.
Then we will call the vote.
Okay. No, you're good. Yep. Let's go. Can I please? 14 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-22, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded, discussion.
Resolution number 11-22, resolution to rescind certain resolutions and policies pertaining to economic development. Now therefore be it resolved that resolutions 38 or 33-98, 32-99, 04-05, 23-08, and 03-08, and policies 112 and 113 are hereby rescinded upon approval of the economic development policy. And be it further resolved that the new economic development policy shall be the guiding and controlling economic development documents should there be any other resolution or policy that is in conflict with it that was not rescinded by passage of this resolution, forwarded to the county board by the Economic Development Committee.
We talked about this last month. We actually had the policy here last month that we're looking to adopt right after this resolution. And the reason we had to do this is policies are read 2 consecutive months. Resolutions obviously get passed or not passed the night of the board. So we couldn't bring the resolution forward last month because we'd have a whole month without having an actual policy and procedure. As you can see, there's several resolutions that were passed. There were several documents out there. If there's something that's not mentioned in here, the new policy will proceed or take over for anything that we may find in the future. But this has been a long process. I'll have Doug come on and talk about the policy itself as he did last time, but this resolution is just to rescind anything before, and then you choose to approve the policy moving forward. Yeah, the policy part, I think. The next agenda item, that's okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Questions? Supervisor Hunt.
I just have a comment. I'm definitely in favor of this, but I didn't realize it was 7 different documents and guidance that you had to go through and consolidate that into one. So again, well done getting that done. And I think that this is, again, gonna help us look a lot better to new business, whether it's local or, national, international, whoever wants to do business with us. I think this is gonna be a big win. So thank you, guys.
It's Todd and Doug. Our blame, I guess.
Is there 2 votes on this? One to rescind and one to
No, they'll just be, the resolution is to rescind, and then we have the policy next on the agenda item. And
And
then,
it'll pass. That's-
yeah, then you guys will vote on that. Yep,
Right, right, just making sense.
yep.
Just gonna add, if you took the time to read through all of those resolutions, you know why you're gonna vote yes.
Yeah, I'm not.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, then we will call the roll.
Can I release?
14 yes, 0 no.
Now, number 7 is the new economic development policy. Do I hear a motion to approve? I'll make that motion. Made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
No, I don't do anything. It's a second reading.
So I'll ask Doug Clary, our planning and zoning director, to come up and see if there's any questions from last month.
No. Okay.
You know, it's, it was funny, the other day I was down in my basement and I was, my son wanted to hang something on the wall, which required me to drill a hole into it because I have Latin plaster. I had to go downstairs and find the screw, and I knew where the screw was. I just couldn't find it because I had 3 containers of all miscellaneous screws in there. And that's what these other policies were like. When Todd and I had to go through them, we knew it was in there, we just had to find the darn policy and where it actually said it and made the connection. The new policy actually puts everything together, actually reduces, I just looked at it, 36 pages down to 16 pages. And it was really cumbersome to put this together. So it was a long project, and a lot of patience on everybody's edge. And I had statements in here too that I knew what it said, but it didn't say that when someone else read it. So it's good to have lots of different eyes on it. But once again, the Economic Development Committee through this policy would be set up to look at those lands that are designated as economic development land. And that land would be designated by the county board in the future. In order to sell it, we would have to get appraisals on it, and the Economic Development Committee would be in charge of selling that property. They also look at some of the revolving loan fund information, which is coordinated with the Chippewa County Economic Development Corporation. We have a lot of eyes on the economic development, from the finance director to corp counsel to the county administrator. We work with Lee McMenamin's been on there for the chair who attends our work group meetings, as well as city staff. So there's a lot of information that's put in the backside of this, and we all go through a meat grinder. And then in the end, it's there for you to look at. So this policy actually helps us out in the long run because we don't have to go find those little screws anymore. Someone who isn't maybe familiar with our process can pick up one document and understand that this is a document that they will need and not get confused with the other 14 different documents over the last 15 years. So if there's any questions you may have on the policy, I'll entertain them, hopefully answer them.
Why'd you look at me and say, hopefully answer?
I was just seeing who had their hand up.
On page 2, number 4B, under county administrator, the last line, with enhanced access to regulatory permit information, what's that mean in practical circumstances? You find where I'm looking?
4B.
Under county administrator.
With enhanced access. So really what will end up happening is that county administrator will work with us to basically get on the backside of all those permits that are going to be needed for that particular project, and work with them either internally or externally with those municipalities or towns for that permitting authority for the project.
In other words, help steer them through the regulatory process, is what you're saying?
Yeah, in some situations it does. I mean, if you think about I'm sure you've all heard bad stories about my department and how long it takes to get permits. This actually,
I wasn't gonna cast any stones.
this actually, I mean, this provides that first stop, that first set of information for Randy and for Charlie Walker at the Economic Development Corporation, who's working with us on those permitting processes. And that's where I kind of come in the backside is I can tell them what those regulatory authorities are right now at the state, the federal level, and or at the local level. And then I can also take a look at those individual town and or city ordinances and decipher how those fit within the project that's going to be there. So.
Any other questions?
Can I release? 14, yes, 0, no.
Okay, ordinance 01-12. This will be the first reading.
You want me to go over what it is, or? Basically, this is just a very quick update to the ordinance on ATV routes. We had a request last fall for Highway EE from an existing route all the way up to Highway 64. So there was already 4 miles that was open on EE. This is the last mile to get them all the way up to Highway 64. And what they have planned is a trail they're going to construct on the north side of 64. Not exactly sure where that's going to go, but even without that, it meets all of our criteria, and it's everything that we agreed to do a few years ago when we set up the policy on how to do this. Very little truck traffic, sight distance is excellent. You know, everything looks like it'd be a safe route up there, so Sheriff Department and Highway Department both recommended approving it.
Questions? This is first reading, we'll vote on. We will move to number 9, proposed revisions to the facility use policy, second reading. Yeah, need a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second.
I'll have Larry Ritzinger, our Facility and Parks Director, talk about this. It's not a big change, but a meaningful change, I think, for our current employees that work during this time of night, so.
Good evening. The proposed changes for the facilities use policy include two. The primary change is allowing the courthouse to be locked up a little earlier, Monday through Thursday. So instead of 10 p.m., we're requesting 6 p.m. so we can improve the security and safety a little bit for the evening custodians that are here. And the second change is adding the new conference room in room 005 to the policy, which will be, construction should be completed about the next month or so. That's the changes. I don't know if there's any questions.
Questions? Hearing none. Vote. motion to break time before we go into closed session. So we will need a motion to adjourn for 5 minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any discussion? Voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi. Hi.
Thank you.
Now when Randy orders pizza.
Logistics.
What's that?
Is the price right?
Oh,
Like that.
I always tell them.
you know, for the basketball season and the weather this year, it's been pretty crazy. They're like, oh, it's canceled. See on this night. Oh, that is Saturday. Now,
You're not wrong again.
oh, now
There's a lot of factors.
Gamery, I think it
I'm
was,
sure the most important.
for the girls' final game, and for section, that was supposed to be initially. I think it was like
You know, Jim Mickelson.
Friday evening.
Yep.
Like, it was like Saturday evening,
Oh, I didn't say that.
and then, no, Saturday at 1 o'clock. And then they said, oh, because of the weather, we're gonna make it Saturday at 7 o'clock. Well, our boys on Friday night so that they could play on Saturday at 7. Then they rescheduled the girls' game Sunday at 3. So those that were going to the game went Friday night, then you went Saturday, then you went Sunday. And, you know, a little bit of weather stuff here and there, but it was like, you know, upperclassmen wanted to be freshmen and an ice storm, and I'm like, no.
Oh, you gotta put your family first.
Exactly.
That sounds good.
Anyway. It is pretty amazing that they have any COVID cases in the jail. That is
Very
commendable.
amazing.
Considering-
Four positive jail inspections too. 4 is pretty awesome.
That's
Oh.
really impressive.
Tonight? No? Mm-mm.
Absolutely.
It's pretty rigorous what they go through.
He's done a really good job with the team he's put together and stuff, so.
Just when we go into the closed session. Do they do it every week or on Tuesdays?
I would say
So it should be, should need to take it, shouldn't it?
Oh, really?
that's a good point.
You can do carry out?
Basically, we did.
Oh, my husband would love that. I should tell, he works at the dairy. I should tell him, go pick it up, just come home with it.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome.
I don't wanna bother before this.
Now, they don't do it.
I had that one,
Not during this one.
just sit on this one for a little bit.
Did the fish fry at the Catholic church in Jim Falls last week.
How was it?
It was good. They must have run out of baked potatoes though. We got French fries.
Was that was just the drive-through, wasn't it?
Yeah, just a drive-through, yep.
I've gone there before, the COVID, it was very good.
Yeah. We were, my daughter and I had to scout. That was my husband's making supper for us.
There will be no train.
Well, you got supper.
Okay. And then on Sunday, he went ice fishing and he brought home some fish, so then I didn't have to go on Sunday either, so.
I had it.
Jackie, did you bring any Girl Scout cookies for tonight?
I didn't, but if anyone needs some, I still got an order form down. So.
Just like it.
I got my boxes, Jackie, thank you.
Because you should do it of the peanut butter pie or the sandwiches. The not the chocolate butter.
They made
That down for you, Bob.
to the service courthouse to a lot of people. Facilities.
John, are you running again? Are you unopposed also?
Close, so.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, probably be sitting
I
next
guess I
to you
have
again.
questions been lying.
Annette, I do have Mike Haley down in my office. I'm sure he wouldn't mind us sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Mike's just a nice guy. He beat us, right?
I mean, you can argue about the effectiveness of that too.
Jim was leaving, so yeah, but everyone else is.
Okay, I would look for a motion to come back into session.
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
He said it loudest.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're back into session. Now I would seek a motion to go into closed session. And whoever makes a motion to read the motion you've been presented.
I'll make us. Go ahead. You gotta read it too late.
Make the motion, we move into closed session. The county board will convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, section 19.85, parent 1, parent G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body. With respect to litigation in which it is or likely to become involved, confer with attorney on itemized statement of relief sought and statement of claim, Rooney Farms LLC and Steve Jake Rooney. Closed session motion for conferring with attorney will include Randy Scholl, Tom Pauls, Jackie Sadler, Larry Witzinger, Jeff Levens, Tim Johnson, Chippewa County Insurance Lawyer, and any county board members.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, we gotta vote.
Yeah.
Just wait. Find my mouse. Good. Everybody? 13 yes, 0 no.
We are now in closed session.
13 yes.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Just wait.
For future consideration. Interesting because we fill out forward. Okay, so, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Everybody, oh, Dave did.
Multiple places, just pick one, Jackie.
Motion made second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
So, 13.
We give this evidence back to you?
Todd, do we want, am I still, can you take it back?
Don't want it.
There's public records. It's public records. We have it. Oh.